Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
Who doesn't like a nice dose of censorship, all wrapped together and packaged like a gift to keep you safe online, of course. They always wrap it in a gift of keeping you safe. I have an insane story out of the UK. They rolled out their Online Safety Act. That seems to ring a bell for us in Canada. Justin Trudeau tried to push for his own. Luckily, we didn't get it rolled out in Canada, but Mark Carney's looking at the UK as a test ground. We have a clip of Steimer standing next to Donald Trump, and yeah, he was straight up humiliated. We're going to get into that story. Then we're going to look at Elections Canada. They're currently in panic mode. They're trying to fix the absolute disaster they created, allowing, I don't know how they allowed this, but there's over 200. There's some reports that it's at 210 candidates on one single ballot. I have to say, you're going to want to bring a pen. Then I'm going to cover Doug Ford. Oh, Doug Ford. He's talking about asylums again, and it's going to be a shocker. Can't have a report without David Eby. He saw Donald Trump saying, I don't want any of these windmills in my country. David Eby actually comes out and says, I want to be the dumping ground for all of this green tech. Oh, we'll get into that as well. And so you know, common sense has left the planet in British Columbia. I have Justin Trudeau climbing the Alps. You are not going to believe what he's wearing to climb. And today's top story is Donald Trump and the EU made one of the largest, it's the largest deal ever to occur on planet Earth. Where was Mark Carney yesterday? He went radio silent. Then he shows up, and instead of offering Canadians some kind of lifeline, he offers us a bridge. Yeah, we're going to get into this massive story. I have a great show. It's huge today. Let's go. Every single day, there's boats packed to the brim heading for the UK. This is an example of what's happening. This is from the UK, packed with men, no women, no children. They're all undocumented. There's 2 million undocumented migrants in the UK. They are considered the capital for this type of thing in Europe. And they're having the exact same problems as we're seeing here in Canada. We know all about it. Here's Ted Cruz saying Trump's closed the border 9 across compared to over 3 million with Biden.
Now, if you look at what the Trump administration has done, it didn't just slow the bleeding. It turned it around. Daily border encounters down 93%. Encounters with gotaways down 95%. Illegal alien crossings down over 99%. These are historic, the biggest improvement in border security in the history of the United States of America.
This is going to be a popcorn moment. Hopefully you got it going. Watch what the reporter said. How embarrassing is this?
The president makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both of our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it.
How embarrassing is that? Do you see his eyes open like deers in headlights? Watch this again.
Easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration.
Oh man, this leads me to the next segment because he wasn't finished getting embarrassed. Here's a quick clip on what exactly is going on with this new bill, the safety of you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Look, Britain is descending rapidly into some kind of dystopia. This Online Safety Act, Orwellianly named, what it does absolutely nothing to protect children. What it does do is suppress freedom of speech in this country and really force social media companies to censor anti-government speech. I want to make a few points about this act. It's about a couple of hundred pages long, so one questions how many people actually read it, including the Tory MPs who voted and waved it through unanimously. The first section I want to draw your attention to is Section 44, which gives the Secretary of State the ability to force Ofcom unilaterally to rewrite the rules about what speech social media platforms must censor. And that is a pretty terrifying thing for a single individual to have. In fact, it's the sort of thing that I think Xi Jinping himself would blush at the concept of. Then there's Section 179, which is maybe even more insidious, which is to say it is illegal to say something which you know to be false, which causes, quote, and I quote, non-trivial psychological harm. And it's actually much worse than making that speech illegal. It forces social media companies to proactively censor that speech. The third point I want to make is look at the penalties that are being imposed on the social media companies who are subject to this act. You're talking about 10% of global revenues. And look, they know what they're doing in drafting this legislation. They are trying to create a perverse set of incentives so that if you're a management team, a chief executive or a board trying to protect your shareholder value, and most of these companies are international, so the UK is a tiny sliver of their revenue, so what are they going to do? They're going to be overzealous on their censorship. And by the way, it's not just 10% of global revenues. It goes further than that. The management teams of these social media companies are being threatened with jail time. And look, Elon is a hero in terms of freedom of speech, but I think even the mighty Elon is going to struggle to get his management teams to put their freedom at stake when it comes to censorship. So we're already seeing the results of this. It's been about 48 hours now since this kicked in. We've seen a few things. Number one, VPN providers are publishing their stats of increases in sign-ups in the UK, up thousands of %. Evidence, by the way, that the 13, 14, 15-year-olds know far more about how the internet works than the dinosaurs that drafted this legislation. And
that little clip I just showed you didn't cover everything that's going on with the Online Safety Act in the UK. Neil McCoy Ward wrote, "Free speech is over in the UK. Here's what the UK government can now do under the Online Safety Act. Scan your private messages." What? WhatsApp, iCloud, Signal, these are encrypted. How are they going in there? Well, this new act, censor protest videos from X and YouTube, force ID checks and facial scans to access social media, search your cloud files, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, order surveillance without warrant, silence dissent, even Wikipedia is under legal threat. If you don't have a VPN, it could be at risk for even posting about it, which is this post. Imagine you post something and you're at risk in the UK. This is something that's coming to Canada. That's why I'm showing everybody this. You ready for this? Watch Steimer's response to the reporter's question. Be very vigilant, because is this exactly what our Canadian politicians are going to say to us?
Importance of free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Oh, very proud. Is that what we're going to see in Canada? Let's see this again.
Very long time here, so we're very proud. Free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Look at his grin and smiling as he knows what just went down the pipe. Now let's take a look at some VPN data. And the big news in the UK is the UK is seeing a surge in VPNs. It's like 1,400% increase as individuals sign up to evade restrictions. Following this, the UK are actually looking to ban VPNs. I posted on my X account, the UK is trying to censor the internet with the Online Safety Act. People switch to VPNs like record. Everybody's going to VPNs, and now authorities want to ban VPNs. Mark Carney is watching closely the UK as a testing ground because I think what Mark Carney's going to do next, well, let's take a look. In the introduction, I showed this video. Mark Carney, he does not like X. He does not like Facebook. He doesn't like any of the US platforms. So I wouldn't be shocked if in the fall, his new bill, his Safety for You bill, which is going to be the online bill, will have a VPN ban associated with it preemptively, of course, because he's watching the UK and he's going to make a plan for Canada. Guaranteed. Moving on to Elections Canada. They want to fix what they allowed to break. They're allowing people to write in the person's name on the ballot for the by-election due to record amount of candidates. We now know that there's well over 200. It's something like 210. And instead of printing out 76,000 2-meter long ballots, they're going to print out a couple, put it inside the voting stations, and allow people to write the candidate's name on the ballot. And this is great news because the longest ballot initiative has officially face planted. The ballot's too long. They have to write their name in the choice. So instead of doing 91, they said 200. Well, Election Canada's come back and said, this is the end of the clown show. Elections Canada has come out with this promotional video, but I have to pre-warn everybody that's voting in this by-election, bring a pen. Yes, bring a pen. And the reason I say this is that watch what happens when they write down a name with a pencil. I'm sorry, but this is like CBC trying to find accountability within the Liberals. It's non-existent. Watch this. They're looking at all the names down the list. Okay, I want to select this person. So watch this. I'm sorry, but I can't even see the name. That's going to be a problem for sure. How many ballots are going to get thrown away because they can't read the name? They're saying right now that they're going to accept spelling errors. Who's going to accept spelling errors? Who's going to be the judge? That's my question. Given their track record, I have my suspicions and doubts, of course. Is this going to be another Elections Canada disaster? Leave a comment in the comment section. What are your thoughts? We're moving to Doug Ford. Oh boy, this is going to be quite something.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here with my great Minister of Labour, David Piccini. I guess I'll start off with talking about last week. I thought it was a very successful COF meeting. We had an opportunity to sit around the table with the premiers and the Prime Minister. For the first time, the Prime Minister showed up to a COF on our invitation, which was very, very good due to the circumstances we're facing against Donald Trump and his tariffs. We came up with consensus around the table and how we tackle the situation with President Trump. And, just my opinion, you heard about the deals with Japan and the European Union and then ourselves. We're working on August 1st. We'll see what comes from that.
See this? This is so funny. We haven't done anything. We all know this. But yeah, we're looking at Japan. We're looking at the EU getting these amazing, well, the EU's not an amazing deal for the EU, but for America, it's a fantastic deal. And listen to this. We're all in consensus, he says.
But I've always taken the approach dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff. And if he wants to attack our hardworking steel workers, aluminum workers, then we have to meet that 50% tariff.
Oh my goodness. Does Doug Ford not know we're in an affordability crisis? When he says a tariff against America, no, It's a tariff against Canadian citizens. Yeah. When he says that he's going to do dollar for dollar tariffs, that means a dollar for dollar taxation on Canadian citizens. Everything will go up in price. It's a tax on Canada. It is such a terrible idea. We can't win a trade war against the United States. Even if we made the tariffs 100%, the US would look at Canada and go, ha, good luck with that one. Now Doug Ford talks about immigration.
As well, what we did communicate around the table, and all the premiers agreed that we need more say into our immigration process, very, very similar to Quebec. We want to really focus on economic immigration, along with my comments about work permitting. I don't want to take the responsibility off the federal government, but in saying that, if you have a pulse and you're healthy, you need to be working. You come to our country. First, they have to go through the system. So I'll give you an example how the system's getting worse through the federal government, not better. You know, they say they issued 70,000 work permits. Well, we have 90,000 people coming in, and altogether there's about 139,000. David, do you have the numbers down better? I think across the country you're mentioning over 280,000 backlogged. I'm very concerned, which the Prime Minister never mentioned to me, about cutting off the funding in literally a month in September for everyone in the hotels. I have quite a few asylum seekers in the hotel in our area and across, especially in Niagara and other areas. The federal government has to go in there and find out who's eligible. The whole system has to have integrity. Who's eligible, who's not. We're a very welcoming country, very welcoming province. And I've always said people come here, they come here, and it's a privilege to be a Canadian. You go out there, you work hard, and you contribute to society, and you pay your taxes. What's very concerning to me is that we're spending $1 billion, and I've had a few phone calls about, I'm not handing out work permits to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's just not happening. What we are doing is when we're spending $1 billion and it's taking 2 years, and people are sitting there, not because they don't want to work, because they don't have a work permit. So that's $1 billion there. And then the feds are adding another $1 billion on accommodations. And if they get rid of that, that's another $500 million, a burden that falls on the taxpayers of Ontario. And I just go back to, again, if you're here, if you're healthy, you need to be working. You need to be contributing to society. You need to be contributing to the tax base. And what else is happening? A lot of these folks that are here, they want to work. We're paying them to sit around, which is crazy. But then they're out there standing on certain corners within the city, and contractors will come by, pick them up, and they're paying them cash under the table. So we're losing a tax base on that. And these people have come here for a better life. And if they truly aren't asylum seekers, and they aren't being threatened in their own country, that's up to the federal government to make sure they're very clear. The people that aren't here based on that, they need to move forward and go back and then reapply through the immigration process.
This entire thing is a complete disaster from beginning to end. And it went from Justin Trudeau opening up the floodgates, and now Mark Carney. It's the Liberals that have destroyed the entire thing. 280,000 asylum seekers. Just for reference, we used to get, just 5 years ago, 21,000 in 1 year. We're all the way up to 120,000 this year alone. Last year was like 140,000. So the number of people that are seeking asylum in Canada is exploding. And now Doug Ford is recommending to fast track them to get permanent work visas. Yeah, that's going to open up the floodgate to even more people, because they're like, we could just show up in Canada and we'll get a work permit tomorrow. Does Doug Ford not look at the unemployment rate in his province? It's significantly higher than the rest of the country. It's like so high. What about the Canadian citizens that are looking for work in his province? Yeah, that's a problem. Now check out the labor minister. This is going to blow your mind.
Seekers help ensure that that system has integrity. To give you all an example right now, we don't know what happens when an asylum claimant is rejected. We don't know if they're given a removal order. What we do know is that 90% are unescorted, which means we don't know if that individual actually stays or leaves. And what we do know is that our system, in particularly in our urban centers, something Mayor Chow, Mayor Brown, and many others would reiterate, is that that system is under strain from a housing perspective, from an education perspective, and from a healthcare capacity perspective. So we need the support from the federal government, and the Premier is right in joining arms with other premiers to say we want more say in Ontario. We're pleased that they have committed to that, and we certainly want them to support us financially.
What I heard last week was we're taking over the issuing of permits for people who are claiming refugees. Too complicated.
Well, yeah, so what I'm saying, we aren't taking it over, but the people that are there, that are sitting there collecting, we're collecting welfare, they're collecting schooling, free healthcare and everything. I want them working. And if we can support the federal government, maybe they don't have the capacity to handle it, we're willing to do that. I just want people to be out there working. Do I want the whole immigration system on the shoulders of the province? No. Would I like to be treated the same way as Quebec? Yes. And so would every other province and territory. But we have to start getting people to work. These are healthy people that want to work, and they're sitting in a hotel room for 2 years, and they're unable to work.
280,000 asylum cases that have not been processed today across Canada. 140 of which are here in Ontario. And that inability to process has resulted in incredible uncertainty. I pointed to you already the lack of data that we're getting, the data sharing piece.
Why in the world do we have 280,000 refugees in this country? What is happening here? The thing is where is the D button? Where is everybody saying we need to start D? Yeah, it needs to happen. No. We already have an economic crisis. We have a healthcare crisis. We have an affordability crisis. And now we have this. This is causing all of that. And these people are like, let's just fast track them into work. What work? Tell me what work. What are these people going to do for work when Canadians are not able to find work?
All the provinces have reiterated on. And I think that when you are here, what the Premier is saying is you've got to have a path to work and to work. So we know there have been delays in the issuance of work permit, but the bigger issue is the processing times are.
I do have to say one thing. Maybe if we force these people to work, they're just going to say, I'm just here for the free money and accommodations, and they all leave. That's something.
Ridiculous across Canada. Process is what I'm saying. Is right about the issuance of work permits and the challenge we find with people who are here having their claim adjudicated. You have two approaches to that. While your claim's being adjudicated, you either on a system of social benefits or you have the ability to work. And what we've seen when we visited job sites and when we've seen our settlement agencies is that if you can get people credentialed who might have a doctor's background, we want them contributing to our healthcare system. And there are two problems in that work permits, there are delays on that, but the broader processing times is a significant concern. The Premier said that we need more autonomy, and that's something all premiers have echoed, and we all agree on that. We want more autonomy. Quebec gets complete autonomy. Ontario now, today, addresses 52% of our international commitments around asylum are processed, and those individuals are in Ontario today. 52%. This isn't an issue equitably felt from Newfoundland to BC. This is an issue unique to Ontario and Quebec, and we would like the financial support.
Change between last Wednesday and today. When last Wednesday.
You know what? I'm glad it is felt in Ontario and Quebec. Who voted for the Liberals majority? Yeah, Ontario and Quebec, you voted for this. So good. Take it.
You were fairly unequivocal. You said it multiple times government start issuing work permits to asylum seekers. So today, you're saying that's no longer going to happen. What changed?
Well, we want to work with the federal government. We don't want to take over the immigration system per se, take the burden on, which we're doing already, that we're spending over $1 billion. They want to throw another $500 million on our shoulders. I do want to see these work permits. We aren't getting the data. They don't get through their screening process. They need to go back and go through the process of immigration. But we can't sustain this hit. People are coming here at this pace, and are they real asylum seekers or not? These are the answers we need from the federal government. Well, you know, I just go out there and I'm hearing it on the street, go up Airport Road, pull over at the Tim Hortons by the Congress Center, start talking to people, ask them how long they've been there, ask them if they want to work. They all want to work, but instead we're paying them to sit in a hotel room. And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to the taxpayers of Ontario. I just want people working if they're here. And if they didn't go through the screening process or didn't pass the process, they need to go. They need to go back home and come back through the immigration process.
Can you explain how this got into the final communique of all the premiers last week? You said you all wanted to...
Yeah,
You said between federal and provincial responsibilities under Section 95 of the Constitution, and now you're walking the whole thing back, and it's just a plea for more support.
No, you know something, Rob? We're frustrated. The premiers are frustrated. We put it in the communique. And all we're saying is, don't keep putting the burden onto the province. Let's start moving forward. If you need support, we'll support you. We will help you. We will do whatever it takes. That's what we have to be very, very clear. First of all, clean up the 280,000 backlog. I don't even know how they have the personnel to do it. That's a big, huge number. And if they're saying they're getting permits in 45 days, show me your data. You can't not tell us the data, but put the burden on the backs of the provinces. That's all we're asking. And if you need support with personnel issuing work permits, we will help you. That's what we need. Our end goal is to make sure the data is very clear and clean, that their numbers will add up to the numbers that we have, and we get people working and off the public system. Healthy. Yes.
Last question.
On the trade talks, the Prime Minister now says that there seems to be some kind of landing zone with the Trump administration. What updates have you been given, and are you confident about that August 1st date?
Well, I'm never confident with President Trump. I'm confident with Prime Minister Carney. I know he's going to do his very best to get a deal, but I don't trust President Trump. He'll say one thing one day and say something else in the news the next day. We want a fair and free trade. But if he wants to attack our steel industry, aluminum industries, we need to hit him back. We are an economic powerhouse in Ontario, economic powerhouse in Canada. I've said, buy more products than Japan, China, Korea, UK, and France combined. He needs to focus on his number one customer. And a tariff on Canadians is a tax on Americans. Prices will go up. And we need to find out exactly where...
He just said exactly what I'm telling everybody. A tariff on Canadians is a tax on Americans. So why would he recommend that we put a tariff on Americans to tax Canadians? This guy, I just can't with him.
There he stands. And then after we get this deal, so-called deal, August 1st, and then we face it again February 26th on the USMCA deal.
You've seen the deals with Japan. There has been a set level line no matter what. Do you think Canada can escape this without having baseline tariffs?
Well, I really hope so, for the sake of Canadians and Americans, so we're so integrated. You know, as I used Japan, they buy $79 billion of products. We buy $359 billion of products. You can't treat your number one customer the same as your whatever fifth largest customer, for example. So we're different, we're unique, and we're so tied. You're going to have to ask the Prime Minister that, but he has to get the fiscal house in order at the federal government, and it's not his fault. The previous administration, and you know, they grew by over 40%. We grew last year about 1.6%. So, anyways, that's up to the Prime Minister. He's a very astute business person. He'll get that done, and we're going to continue working well with the federal government and all the premiers.
I think the question is about the cuts to funding for refugee.
Yeah, David. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have seen a reduction in labor market transfer agreement. We've seen a reduction in settlement services. And I think one thing we can all agree on, lack of certainty and integrity in the system leads to exploitation. Many of you have asked me about that, about the workers the Premier references who are on the corner of the street getting paid in cash. This Premier wants a strong economy where you contribute to our GDP and where you pay taxes and you work. And our tools to help people to work, the Labour Market Transfer Agreement, settlement services, language, have seen a reduction. And you want to support people in language training to speak the language of this country. You want to ensure we don't even get the data on what's the reason they were accepted as an asylum claimant. What is their language proficiency? What are their skill sets? We don't get the basic data. And this Premier and all the Premiers have said we got to work together. And I think that's a positive here. We will work closer together to get this issue addressed. Thank you.
That is unbelievable. We don't get the data. We have no idea. This is just ridiculous. This just shows you how out of control things have gotten in Canada. Let's move on to David Eby, but we have to see what Donald Trump said.
And the other thing I say to Europe, we will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys, our beautiful plains, and I'm not talking about airplanes, I'm talking about beautiful plains, beautiful areas in the United States, and you look up and you see windmills all over the place. It's a horrible thing. It's the most expensive form of energy. It's no good. They're made in China, almost all of them. When they start to rust and rot in 8 years, you can't really turn them off. You can't bury them. They won't let you bury the propellers, you know, the props, because there's a certain type of fiber that doesn't go well with the land. That's what they say. The environmentalists say you can't bury them because the fiber doesn't go well with the land. In other words, if you bury it, it will harm our soil. The whole thing is a con job. It's very expensive. And in all fairness, Germany tried it, and wind doesn't work. You need subsidy for wind, and energy should not need subsidy. With energy, you make money. You don't lose money. But more important than that is it ruins the landscape. It kills the birds. They're noisy.
Donald Trump's not wrong about wind. It's literally the worst option when in terms of value for what you pay for. Small nuclear reactors would make way more sense. And in BC, we have BC Hydro. But let's take a look at David Eby.
Our country is under direct attack by the United States, specifically by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Unfortunately, we're not unique in that. We're seeing an attack around the world on allies, particularly of the United States, from the President. No one can really make sense of why that's happening, but it is happening. And as we try to keep track of the multiple announcements of the President about attacking this sector or that sector or this country or this tariff, what we have to do as British Columbians, what we have to do as Canadians, is push ahead and make sure that we're building our economy to stand strong on our own 2 feet, diversifying our markets. And the proud thing for British Columbians is, although this is a time of great uncertainty and challenge for major industries in our province and in our country, is that we know that our province is positioned to be the engine of the new economy that we're building here in Canada. And we saw that recently with the Highland Valley Copper announcement, a $2.4 billion investment in our province by Teck, 1,900 jobs, shipping copper to markets in Asia. We've seen that through major investments. We shipped our first LNG cargo, the first Canadian LNG cargo ever, out of our northwest port in Kitimat to Asia. We are developing more than $50 billion in capital projects in this province that are either shovel ready or are in approvals processes that we are excited about that are going to build this economy. So while there are challenges out there, we know that we will be the engine of the Canadian economy going forward in this very difficult time as we restructure to protect our sovereignty and protect Canadian jobs and respond to the attacks from White House that up until very recent memory was a close ally of Canada's. Now, there's something special about that engine in British Columbia, and that is that our engine is electric. One of our big advantages here in British Columbia is clean, cheap electricity. It attracts industry, it keeps industry here. And one of the things we know is that projects that are proposing to come to our province need to use more and more electricity than ever before. They want to use clean electricity, and in doing so, they produce the lowest carbon products in the world, and it doesn't matter what it is that's produced. We set records for having very low carbon emissions when products are produced here in British Columbia. And so that's one of the reasons why you saw a couple of months ago an announcement much like this over on Vancouver Island. We announced a call for power for BC Hydro. A call for power is not He-Man standing in front of Castle Grayskull. This is that's a Gen X reference. May not land for everybody. It's an open call to independent power producers, First Nations communities. If you have an opportunity to generate electricity for our province, bring it forward. BC Hydro will work with you and award a contract to buy that electricity from you. So we did that first call for power. It was oversubscribed, 5,000 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power 500,000 homes through clean energy, through wind power, through solar. Very impressive in that the 9 of the 10 projects are majority Indigenous owned, and the 10th at 49%, clear partnerships between industry and First Nations and local communities across the province. Very inspiring stuff, and delivered at a cost that was 40% less than the 2015 BC Hydro call for power. So ensuring that we're continuing to provide affordability around hydro, that we're building our economy, representing billions of dollars in private investment in our province, creating jobs, prosperity in remote communities, including in First Nations. A hugely successful first call. So that is why we're gathered here today as an announcement that we're building on that success of the first announcement, that we are building more energy here in British Columbia. Today I'm announcing a second call for power, an additional 5,000 gigawatts of clean energy that we're calling for to be produced here in British Columbia, enough to power 500,000 homes, as well as major industrial projects across the province. It is an economic driver in every corner of British Columbia for communities right across this beautiful province of ours. And it's a reflection of two things. One is our commitment to grow our economy, to ensure that we're standing strong as British Columbians, we're relying on our advantages, and we're supporting growth in the industries in which we're strong. And the second is that we believe that climate change is real, that we understand that we have a role to play here in British Columbia in driving down emissions, and clean electricity is the way that we're going to do it. And we're going to address climate change at the same time as we're growing our economy. And I couldn't help but notice the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't like those windmills that produce electricity. They interfere with the views from his golf courses. Let me tell you, to all American clean energy producers, come relocate to British Columbia. We are the clean energy capital of the world. We're going to do it. We're creating energy here. We're supportive of clean energy, and we will continue to be so. You can join the amazing more than 700 medical professionals that have applied to join our health service from the United States, and we welcome you, and you are welcome here.
Holy crap. What kind of... We are officially in British Columbia, the world's dumping ground for failure and just green garbage, because the windmills are not the solution to go green. What a pile of caca. Justin Trudeau's enjoying his fully funded retirement on your back and your dime. He's in the Alps here, climbing the mountains. But one thing that stood out to me is, how do you climb wearing those pants? I've never seen that type of pants before for hiking in the mountains. To me, that seems rather restrictive. That would put a clamp on your you-know-what. And here's our top story. We have Mark Carney, and he was ghosted. Like, when we found out that the EU just signed a deal with the United States worth $1.2 trillion, I was looking for an immediate press conference from Mark Carney. He took the day off. He didn't hold any press conference. Then 24 hours later, he shows up, and instead of offering some kind of miracle relief from our economic genius, he stands in front of the camera and offers a coupon for a bridge, one bridge.
For people and for businesses. And that's what we're doing today. As of August 1st, the day Angelo and his family are now leaving the island, Canada's new government is reducing the toll for all vehicles on the Confederation Bridge by more than half, from $50, $25 to $20. Yeah. And we're reducing the tariffs, the fares, by 50% for passengers, for vehicles, for commercial traffic on Eastern ferries, those Eastern ferries that are federally supported, and funding Marine Atlantic to reduce its passenger fares by 50% on both routes and freeze freight rates.
You can't make any of this stuff up, Canada. You know what the percentage of Canadians will actually take this bridge? I will never take this bridge or ferry in my entire lifetime, guaranteed. There's literally 99.9% of Canadians will not benefit from this announcement. And isn't it funny that he's making this announcement and saying it kicks in on August 1st, the same time that the 35% tariffs from Donald Trump will also kick in? This is like a kick in the mouth. And you're not going to believe this. Mark Carney posted on his account, social media account, "We're getting big things done for Canadians." He thinks that giving a coupon for the Confederation Bridge toll and ferry rates fulfills election promises. What about the election promise of getting a trade deal with our biggest customer and our best friend, the United States? What about that election promise? This election promise does not affect 99% of the population, but he says we're getting big things done for Canadians. If this is big things done for Canadians, I'm fearful for what not big things are getting done for Canadians. If this is big, what happens when there's nothing for Canadians? So I posted for Mark Carney to take a look at on his post. Getting big things done. Elbows up. So here's my post on X, and it got 128,000 impressions. The US versus Canada today. The US $1.2 trillion trade deal versus a couple bucks off of a bridge. This is the last one before the end of the report. Is anyone else feeling the life-changing savings from Mark Carney's middle-class tax cut? I'm going to tell everybody right now, my pockets are bursting at the seams right now. Let me know in the comment section how much your pockets are swelling and how many pieces of steak you're purchasing today. I think this is a great picture to end this segment. The censorship in the UK should be alarming to all of us. And Doug Ford, wow, I just can't with Doug Ford. David Eby wants BC to be the dumping ground for green tech. I'm sure that's going to go fantastic. And Mark Carney offering us a bridge coupon. Take this and go. I can't wait to provide all of you epic updates. August 1st is in 2 days. Are we going to get this amazing trade deal with the United States? I won't hold my breath on it. I'll see you on the next report.